one remaining with the individual, and he's not going to let her leave the aircraft at this time.
He made me feel very sure that we had a very real and horrifying threat.
We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went.
Yes, D.B. Cooper definitely jumped from the plane that night. But in case you're wondering how this is known with certainty despite no one actually seeing him jump, I'll try to explain it. First, it's important to know that Cooper purposely picked a 727 to hijack because it was one of two American airliners, along with a DC-9, that possessed what were called aft stairs. These aft stairs were a unique design feature because they allowed the 727 to land at smaller airports and pick up passengers without any need to hook up to a jetway or have a stairs truck pull up to the front exit. These stairs were a necessary component for Cooper's heist because it gave him a stable platform to jump from, as opposed to, say, opening one of the emergency exits and trying to jump out that way. Okay, so first a quick refresher. Once Cooper received his money in Seattle and let the passengers go, he did keep one stewardess, Tina Mucklow, and the rest of the flight crew as hostages and told them to fly to Mexico City. About 5 minutes after takeoff from Seattle, Cooper lets Tina go join the rest of the crew in the cockpit, telling her to turn off the lights and close the curtain in between first class and coach on her way up. Not long after Tina is in the cockpit, Cooper tries to lower the stairs, but they aren't falling far enough. The stairs on that particular model of 727 mainly used gravity and their own weight to lower to their fully open position once they were unlocked. But the stairs weren't falling far enough for Cooper's liking, so he calls to the cockpit and says,
I can't get the stairs down. Well, I can't get the stairs down. The stairs won't open up.
All this noise.
And then he tells them to slow down a bit. What was happening was that the wind from the airstream was blowing too hard up against the back of the stairs, keeping gravity from doing its job. So the crew slows down a good bit, and a little while later they get an indicator light in the cockpit telling them that the aft stairs have opened up. It's important to point out at this point that even after slowing down, the stairs were only able to naturally fall about 20 degrees, so they weren't really close to being fully deployed at that point. However, once Cooper began to walk or climb down the stairs, his body weight was sufficient to lower them to their fully deployed position. In the cockpit, the crew noticed that they were getting some oscillations on one of their instrument panels, indicating to them that something was occurring in the rear of the plane. They correctly presumed that it was Cooper doing something with the stairs, and they reported this over the radio. A few minutes went by as they watched these oscillations occurring on the instrument panel, and then suddenly every member of the crew felt a popping sensation in their ears. One of the pilots said it was akin to rolling down a window if you're speeding down the highway. Another pilot said it felt like a cork going off from a champagne bottle. Whatever it was, they definitely felt the pressure change in their ears. And what was the cause of this pressure change? Well, in the back when Cooper jumped and the stairs were suddenly relieved of his weight, the stairs acted like a diving board and they sprang upward toward the fuselage, briefly slamming shut. This forced a burst of air down the length of the cabin and is what caused this pressure change in their ears. This incident is now referred to as the pressure bump. So for Cooper to have still been on the plane when it landed in Reno to refuel, he would have had to have faked this pressure bump somehow. This just wasn't possible without a very heavy weight being quickly removed from the bottom of the stairs. Plus, even if he somehow could have faked this pressure bump, he wouldn't have had any idea that he needed to do it in the first place. No one had any knowledge at the time that this would occur because no one was ever known to have jumped from the aft stairs of a 727 in flight before. A couple years earlier, a few parachutists from the CIA's covert airline Air America had gone out the back of a 727, but when they did this, the stairs were removed before takeoff and they instead went down a ramp. Following the hijacking, Northwest Airlines had an idea that this pressure bump was caused by Cooper jumping, but they weren't totally sure. So to test this theory, a joint experiment was conducted by Northwest Airlines, the FBI, and the Air Force. In January 1972, they used the exact same aircraft from the hijacking and replicated the exact speed, altitude, and flight configuration, and then pushed a 230-pound sled off the back of the stairs. As they expected, when the weight of the sled was removed, the stairs briefly slammed shut, causing a pressure bump that was felt by everybody in the aircraft who was participating in this test. In the cockpit for the test was Harold Anderson, who was the flight engineer during the actual hijacking. He reported that it was the exact same sensation that he felt on the night of the hijacking. Throughout the first half of 1972, 5 other copycat hijackers also parachuted from the back stairs with a ransom. During each of these copycat hijackings, the FBI told those hijacked crews, "Hey, you're going to feel something when this guy jumps, so let us know when you feel that popping in your ears." Sure enough, every one of those copycat hijackers caused a pressure bump when they jumped. Remarkably, we do have actual film footage of the stairs reacting this way. In the beginning of The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, a really crummy film from 1981, a skydiver playing the role of Cooper is seen jumping from the aft stairs. We can clearly see the stairs rebounding, although they don't rebound nearly as much as when Cooper or his copycats jumped. This is almost certainly a result of the lower speed they were flying at for the filming of this scene. No doubt safety was a key concern when they filmed this, and so they were probably flying as slow as possible, which would have meant there wasn't as much wind pushing up against the bottom of the stairs. Nevertheless, this is the only footage known to exist of an individual actually jumping from the aft stairs of a 727. So this pressure bump is the main reason that we know for certain that Cooper actually jumped, and it also indicates where he jumped roughly. But it's also worth noting that when the plane landed in Reno, local law enforcement were speeding down the runway behind the rear of the plane, ensuring that no one jumped out on the runway. Over the next several hours, the plane was thoroughly searched. They weren't so much worried about Cooper being on the plane at that point, but were concerned that maybe he had stashed this alleged briefcase bomb somewhere. To look for this bomb, they pulled up the floor panels, they removed side panels from the stairs, they removed the ceiling panels. Basically, anywhere that a bomb could fit, they searched. And there was, of course, no sign of Mr. Cooper. So there you have it. Cooper absolutely jumped that night. I know it kind of seems obvious to most people, but I think one of the reasons why some people, mostly those unfamiliar or very new to the case, might consider this a viable theory is because they don't know about the 5 other men who came after Cooper and committed the same crime. 3 of these men even managed to get away from where they jumped, even with the FBI and local law enforcement knowing where they jumped, all thanks to this pressure bump giving away their jump location. One of these copycat hijackers was caught after 2 days, another after a week, and still another managed to evade detection for over a month. Yet with Cooper, they didn't know that this pressure bump signified where he jumped until later on. In fact, there were no law enforcement boots on the ground in the vicinity where he jumped for over 40 hours. So I think that some people may think of Cooper's hijacking as some impossible thing to pull off. So they come up with all these wild theories like him hiding on the plane or whatever because they have to explain away why he was never caught. But mainly why he was never caught is because he had a 40-hour head start. Give any bank robber a 40-hour head start to escape his crime scene and he's probably going to escape. So I just don't think there was anything superhuman or mysterious about how Cooper escaped. He just caught the FBI and everybody else by surprise because they didn't know exactly what that pressure bump meant at the time. In other words, Cooper had an enormous advantage by being the first to actually commit this type of crime. Anyways, that's all for today, folks. Y'all like and subscribe and do all that YouTube-y stuff. It really does help the channel. I will talk to y'all again soon.